Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to record drum room mics. We're going to be looking at recording drum room mics today, and more specifically a single mono room mic, and this is going to help you get a nice picture of the kit that's set back in the room so you have some ambience that you can pull up underneath your kit as a whole. Before we dive in here though, if you're looking to go a little bit deeper into the drum mixing process and really start to dial in your workflow, then you need to go through my 3-step framework for mixing drums workshop. This workshop is going to walk you through the simple 3-step process I go through on almost every single one of my drum mixes to help you get professional and radio ready drum mixes in less time. It is a completely free workshop, on-demand video training, and you can get instant access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. All right, let's jump in here and take a look at this room mic. All right, here we are moving into the drum room. Here is our picture of the kit as a whole, and here is the only room mic I am using. I actually only do a mono room mic. I've tried a couple stereo pairs here, but as you can see, if I pan around the room here, it's not a very big room and it's not very deep either. So it's not wide, it's not deep, and it's not tall. We keep this room pretty dead here. My philosophy has always been I prefer to add ambience to the drum kit with reverb or impulse responses rather than, have it built into the sound. When you have that big room, it's nice if you need it, but if you're trying to go for something that's tighter, it's always a little bit more difficult to get that ambience out of the kit because it's kind of baked into the sound. So here in this room, we have something that's quite a bit tighter with all of the baffling we have going on and the isolation sound even on the ceiling. So our kit, it's not that much of a distance between the kit and our room mic here. This is a Roswell Mini K47 that I like to use for the room mic. I've used an AKG P220 here. I've used the Slate Digital mic modeling the U47. I like anything that's close to like a U47 sound because it captures the low end actually really well. And you can see this is about medium height here in the room. You can set it at different heights to get different sounds and different pictures of the kit. I actually just keep it at about vocal level. This is the vocal mic that we use for recording. So where I have it set kind of for vocalists actually gives me a pretty good picture of the kit. And we'll talk about some EQ and stuff as we get back into the DAW here. But if you want something maybe a little bit darker, you can always lower this mic too. So if you put it more towards the floor, you can see it's carpet in here. If we were to keep it down more closer to the ground, we would pick up more of a darker sound off the front of the kit because it would be more focused on the lower elements, so our kick drum and the bottom end of our snare drum. About mid-sized here in the room, we do get a lot of brightness from the cymbals, and it tends to get washy, but we deal with that with EQ later on. But I find anywhere from about where it is, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, I do get a good picture of the spot mics as a whole, or all of the shells. So the toms, the kick drum, and the snare come out very, very balanced sounding in the mic where it's set mid-size in the room here. If I were to go lower, like I said, we get a darker sound and we get less of the cymbals, but I find then I get more emphasis on the kick drum rather than the crack of the snare drum and the toms. So kind of set right above the toms height here, pointing towards about the cymbals. I get a good picture of the kit, and I can kind of tame that washiness from the cymbals inside the DAW. So that's our mic here set in the room. I do leave the pop filter up, so it, I don't know if that actually does anything, but I like to think it tames some of the washiness from the cymbals, but probably not. This actually isn't running into the snake. So because this is the vocal mic, it actually runs directly out of the room here into the back of, bumping into the wall here, into the back of the Studio Live, and it's coming up here on channel 22. So coming directly out of the mic there, the Mini K47, into the back of the board. Channel 22, as you can see, is the vocal mic here. So coming up on channel 22, I have the gain set at 8 here, but that's because of something we'll look at here in a second. So no phantom power here as well, because we're not really using the pre on the board for anything except a little bit of extra level in the back end. Sometimes I run EQ on this, just if I want to hear it in the room, but this EQ isn't printing to the actual track or the actual audio file inside the DAW. Now, a couple things to look at here. Let me back up so we can kind of see the front of the table here. I've used a Eureka on the room mic or the vocal mic here a couple times, and I just kind of set it to get anywhere from 3 to maybe 5 dB reduction on that room mic there. It kind of evens things out and gives me a little bit more aggression on some of the shells, so the kick drum and the snare drum especially. I don't do any EQ on the way in with this. I don't like printing any kind of EQ to the room mic. I've also used over here, got some headphones in the way of it. I've also used this Warm Audio Neve style preamp, their WA73 on the room mic. Sometimes I like to crush it, so I really crank it up and then just pull the output all the way down. You can see the settings are kind of similar there to what we're talking about. But I don't use that as often as I do just the Eureka to kind of level things out. So that's why you can see we don't have phantom power on, and the gain isn't that high on here, because I usually end up setting the gain either on the Eureka or on the 73 here, the Warm Audio 73. And I can turn on phantom power here or over on the Eureka. Okie dokie, here we are back inside of the DAW. This is our room mic here that I have pulled up. If I zoom out, you can see with the Eureka, so this one was captured running through the Eureka, it stays very even all the way through, which is nice. Like I said, it gives us a good picture of the kit, and that little bit of compression that I have coming from the Eureka kind of holds it nice and even. So as we pull it up, we get this consistent ambience and this consistent sound that we can tuck underneath, our kick, our snare, and our toms as well here. Let me hit play and you can hear the kit as a whole, and then I'll solo up, drink too much water here. I'll solo up just this room mic here, and you can hear what this mono room mic sounds like. So this is the Mini K47 running into the PreSonus Eureka here. But here's our kit as a whole, and I'll solo that up. You can hear all that beefiness that we have coming from the room mic. Even though it is just a mono signal that's set back from the kit, it still gets a ton of weight and a ton of punch from the drums overall. I do have a little bit of EQ on, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let me turn this off. Here is just the raw sound of the room mic coming into the DAW. You can hear it's a very beefy sound. We have a lot of weight coming off of our kick drum. We've got some nice crack coming from our snare drum. Like I talked about as we were in the drum room, we do get quite a bit of wash from our cymbals, but the lower I take that mic to reduce that wash from the cymbals, the less I get from the snare. So where it's set in the room gives me that balance I want between the kick and the snare and the toms. The cymbals we take care of with a little bit of EQ here inside the DAW. So let me pull up the EQ here. We're only doing a couple things recording wise here. Mixing wise, I'll probably pull out some mid-range and stuff like that to get it to sit inside the track. But just off the bat, as we're recording, I like to throw on this EQ just to tame the rough edges on this mono room mic. And the biggest thing, the biggest impact is this low pass filter here. So rolling down all of that excessive top end and that kind of washy cymbal sound really hones in this sound on this mono room mic and gives us a lot of bang for just a single mic pulled back from the kit. So let me turn these two off And I'm just going to kick in this EQ on the top end here, this low pass filter. We're at 2.81K, so it seems like we're coming down quite a bit, but listen to the difference in the sound. It gets rid of all that harshness and all of that pokiness and washy sound from the cymbals. It de-exaggerates that top end and really lets us focus in on the weight we're getting from our kick drum and that mid-range crack we're getting from our snare drum. And if you watch one more time, you can see where our peaks are for our kick and snare. They're sitting pretty even. That's why I have that mic set where I do in the room. Like I said, we could lower it and try and reduce that cymbal sound that we get in the mic, but then we lose the balance that we have built in the recording with our kick and our snare here. The other thing I like to do just during the recording process on this mic is roll off just a touch of the sub area. This high pass filter helps me tame that sub area a bit and also focus my low end on the drum kit overall. So we've kind of talked about before in some of the other videos, I don't like low end printing from multiple signals, especially if it's just one input. So with the drum kit, I don't like multiple signals printing the low end from the kick drum. I like leaving some of the fundamental here on the room mic because of how weighty it feels, and it gives me some bigness in the ambience. That way the ambience isn't just mid-range. I have some low-end impact in the ambience, in the room sound, but it's not the sub area that's going to give me phase issues or problems when I do bring it up against the kick drum. So that's all these two filters are doing. Taming that top end and taming the bottom end, the sub area here. Listen one more time and I'll A-B this EQ overall. So here's with it and then without. So when we're recording room mics, you can get away with just a mono room mic if you set it up correctly, if you position it correctly, and you apply a little bit of EQ to tame those edges and make your room a little bit bigger sounding. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to level up your drum mixes and really start dialing in a repeatable workflow for cranking out professional sounding drums, then you need to go through my 3-step framework for mixing drums workshop. It is a completely free, on-demand video training, and you can get instant access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching here today, and I will see you in the next video.